the KMNN studios, this is the Kids Morning News Network. It's August 28th, 2024. Welcome to the Kids Morning News Network podcast. I'm Alex in the KMNN studio. It's opening day at the Paris 2024 Paralympic Summer Games. There won't be any competitions today, but you can watch the ceremonies on the same channels you watched the Olympics earlier this month. It's back to school time here in the U.S., and that means a whole bunch of stuff you're supposed to bring with you to school for the new year. It's not always easy for kids and families to get all the things they need. It's expensive. It takes time. Some kids have to do without. Well, one Oklahoma teenager is trying to change that. For the past 9 years, 18-year-old Reed Markham has been putting together book bags for kids in his hometown and beyond. At this point, he has helped kids across Oklahoma as well as in Texas and Arkansas. And he's given away, get this, more than 33,000 backpacks and $1.3 million in school supplies. He says he was inspired by his membership in 4-H, which is kind of more often known for farming-related activities, but it's also about community and service. Nice work, Reed, and thanks for helping out. On this day in 1963, 61 years ago, about 250,000 people, 250,000, gathered in Washington, D.C. for what was called the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. They were there to support the cause of civil rights, to show that everyone should be treated the same way no matter the color of their skin, and in particular that every citizen should have the right to vote, to help decide who runs the country. Well, they gathered in front of the Lincoln Memorial, you know, the one, Abe Lincoln sitting in a big chair looking out over the reflecting pool. And one of the marchers that day and one of the speakers was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He gave one of the most famous speeches in American history called the I Have a Dream speech. It's an amazing speech, and Dr. King was an amazing speaker. Some of his most famous speeches he made up on the spot, which is kind of what happened at the March on Washington. He came to the march with a speech all written out, and that was mostly what he read for about 10 minutes or so. Sitting near him was his friend, a very famous singer named Mahalia Jackson. She'd heard him speak before, and in some other speeches he'd talked about having a dream where people could live together in peace and be treated equally. Dr. King didn't talk about that dream in his speech that day, but apparently Mahalia Jackson felt that the speech he was reading wasn't as good. So after about 10 minutes she said, "Tell them about the dream, Martin." And at that point, he stopped reading what he had written and just started talking about his dream. And the rest is history. It's riddle time. Monday's riddle was always in front of you but never seen. What is it? Answer: the future. Today's riddle is: I fly without wings, I cry without eyes. Whenever I go, darkness flies. What am I? I fly without wings, I cry without eyes. Whenever I go, darkness flies. What am I? All right, I will give you the answer on Monday. You got to make sure you follow or subscribe so that you don't miss it. Let's talk about chocolate. I bet that got your attention. For thousands of years, chocolate has been made with the seeds or the beans of the cocoa plant. Just the seeds. The rest of it, this fat fruit gets thrown away. Some scientists in Switzerland, where they know a thing or two about chocolate, thought that was too wasteful. So they figured out a way to make chocolate using the entire cocoa fruit. So there's less waste. It takes less room to grow the ingredients for chocolate. And the cocoa farmers make more money, which is good, because many of them just barely scrape by. The secret sauce, kind of, is in a syrup that they make from the cocoa fruit. It's really sweet. So they can add that to the beans to make chocolate instead of sugar. This sustainable chocolate isn't in stores yet, but scientists think the future for this new kind of candy looks sweet. Today it'll be cool in the northwest and then hotter the further southeast you go. The heat could trigger some rain by the end of the day, especially in the Midwest and Gulf Coast. But overall, more sun than clouds out there today. Well, that is the show. Thank you very much for listening. Please follow or subscribe to the Kids Morning News Network on your podcast app, podcast player, your smart device, or wherever you are listening to this episode. I'm taking a little tiny end of summer mini vacation, so Friday's show will be a great episode from earlier this year. I hope you like it. And I will be back with a whole new episode on Monday. From the KMNN Newsroom, this is Alex, signing off.